The movie starts on an island near Montreal, where a large biotech company is situated. It focuses on maintaining golf courses by utilizing a special kind of fertilizer. This fertilizer is designed in such a way that it can defrost the snow that accumulates during winter. It ensures that the grass remains vibrant and green, allowing rich people to indulge in golfing throughout the year. I just paid $18 for a regular-sized jar of olive oil, but sure, let the rich golf year-round. The scene then shifts to a security guard named Dan, who is bringing groceries into his home. I wonder if he got olive oil. He has a routine of listening to a radio show every day, where the host warns everyone that unexpected trouble can arise at any time. Influenced by the show, Dan always makes sure he is ready to face any unseen challenges. Tonight, he is practicing starting a fire without matches, and using his shotgun, he removes the powder from a shell and attempts to ignite it, only to result in a small explosion that burns one of his eyebrows. The following morning, we see the CEO of the biotech company, Michelle, playing golf with a wealthy couple. He praises how the grass is thriving due to their fertilizer. However, they are unaware of what is happening beneath the surface. It turns out that the game-changing fertilizer is contaminating the water supply below. Next, we see a popular actor named Jacques, who drinks water from his studio's tap before heading out to buy groceries. The fruits and vegetables at the store are washed with the same tap water. Suddenly, Jacques begins to feel lightheaded, but he brushes it off. Probably saw the price of olive oil. Upon returning home, he notices his teeth turning green and his stomach making strange noises. As he searches for his wife in the bathroom, he shockingly realizes that he has turned into a zombie. Jacques tries his best to get out of the house, but the animal inside him forces him to bite his own wife. As a result, she also transforms into a zombie. Meanwhile, at the golf club, Michelle and the wealthy couple head towards the main building, only to find it deserted. Suddenly, a man rushes out of the door, anxiously shouting that people are falling ill. A horde of employees, now turned into zombies, then come after him. Michelle and the wealthy couple somehow manage to get away from them, but the wife is bitten by an infected dog. This, unfortunately, transforms her into a zombie. Dog would have been more interesting. Terrified, Michelle and the husband retreat into the building and shut the door behind them. But as they attempt to run away, the cheeky dog manages to get inside and fatally injures the husband, too. In the meantime, Dan receives a call from an elderly woman reporting disturbances and arguments among her neighbors. Upon arriving at the scene and ringing the bell, they are met by their now zombified neighbors. As chaos ensues, the elderly woman is attacked by one of her neighbors and soon transforms into a flesh-eating monster. Thankfully, Dan manages to seek refuge inside his car. As the zombies wander around him, he gets really worried for his daughter, Patricia. He tries to get in touch with her to make sure she's safe. However, Patricia is also on the run from the zombies, so she is unable to answer his call. In the following scene, we meet Andre, a teenager who is preparing milk for his younger sister using tap water. What? But just as he's about to feed her, his mother instructs him to use bottled water instead. It turns out Andre himself has never been one to drink tap water. Whenever he feels thirsty, he opts for soda, or another sponsored beverage. Soon after, his mother begins to feel dizzy, and he suggests that it might be due to excessive exercise. However, she suddenly transforms into a zombie and begins chasing him. Fearing for his life, the teenager gets out of the house and starts running through the streets. At one point, she almost catches up to him, but Dan accidentally strikes her with his car. This injures her legs, and as a result, she is unable to walk. Witnessing his mother's plight, Andre rushes to her aid, but Dan urges him to prioritize survival instead of being emotional. He also advises the teenager to seek refuge in his house before hitting the road again in search of his daughter. Soon, more zombies arrive at the scene, so Andre drags his mother inside the house and hastily secures all the doors. He then calls the police to inform them of the situation. However, he only receives a recorded message informing him that the entire island is under quarantine. The scene then shifts to the bridge connecting the island to the main city. Police officers stand guard, sealing off the bridge to prevent outsiders from entering, and insiders, who have mostly turned into zombies, from leaving. Back at home, Andre's mother lunges to attack her little daughter Annie, but the teenager notices her just in time and locks her in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Annie continues to cry, and her sobs echo throughout the house. This draws the attention of the zombies gathering outside the bathroom door. Worried, Andre quickly covers his little sister with a pillow, blanket, and stuffed toys to muffle her sounds, and also quite possibly to suffocate her. The plan surprisingly works, and the zombies end up retreating to the streets. Elsewhere, Patricia finds refuge in a garage as she desperately calls her father for help. When Dan finally arrives at the scene, he finds a horde of zombies surrounding the garage. But despite the grim situation, he is determined to rescue his daughter. He then takes out his knife, dispatches several zombies, and causes others to stumble to the ground. Back at the bridge, the military personnel carry out a huge explosion, which disconnects the island from the rest of the mainland. Unfortunately, this causes a widespread power outage across the town. The next morning, when Annie's nanny arrives at the bridge for work, she finds it broken. This means that she won't be able to babysit today. What a massive bummer. Meanwhile, Andre begins filming the zombies from the window of his house, capturing the chaos outside. Just then, a press conference is broadcast online, where the defense minister assures the public that the bridge has been destroyed for the safety of the island, and that the situation is now under control. Andre is shocked to learn that the government is taking no measures to help them, and to make matters worse, his phone battery also dies. Later, Andre decides to venture outside in search of food and hopefully some other survivors. He places his little sister in a baby carrier and grabs a golf club. As he opens the front door, he notices a horde of zombies waiting for them. Andre cleverly diverts their attention by leading them to his pet cat. He then closes the door on them and quickly runs away from there. If Andre just sacrificed his cat, then he deserves to die too. After a while, he reaches the grocery store with Annie, only to find all the doors shut. A bunch of zombies soon arrive and begin encircling them. But just when the siblings are about to be attacked, a door suddenly swings open, and Dan pulls them inside to safety. It turns out Dan has been camping here since the previous day. He explains that all the boats are gone and swimming in the water is too dangerous due to the risk of encountering zombies. Also, water caused the zombies, so he is unsure how to escape this zombie-infested island. We then learn that Patricia has also been infected and turned into a zombie. Dan has locked her inside a room, hoping that he will be able to cure her someday. Meanwhile, at the golf club, Michel sanitizes all the doors and informs his company's staff that experts are on their way to help. However, he emphasizes that they must adhere to the company's rules for now. Back at the store, Dan struggles to light a fire, so Andre helps him ignite it using a lighter. While eating, they listen to Dan's favorite radio show discussing zombie attacks. The radio host interviews the defense minister, who gives evasive answers to questions. This leads the host to suspect that the government may be sacrificing lives to combat the zombies. Soon after, Dan and Andre team up to investigate the cause of the infection, hoping to develop a vaccine. Dan eventually theorizes that the infection spreads through water. He recalls that all the people who turned into zombies had consumed tap water, but his own paranoia had prevented him from doing so. Andre also agrees with this, as he hasn't consumed tap water in goodness knows how long. Later, the trio exits the store, with Patricia joining them. Dan has put a cage on her head to prevent her from biting anyone. Outside, they encounter zombies covered in a green, sticky substance. Suddenly, a little girl appears from behind and attacks Dan. He manages to push her away, but can't bring himself to kill her. The three then somehow reach his car right before the zombies catch up to them. Meanwhile, the biotech company dispatches two twins armed with weapons to the golf club. They are tasked with eliminating any zombies in their path. Inside the club, Michel takes drastic measures by burning all documents related to the fertilizer deal. He makes sure no evidence remains that links his company's fertilizer to the zombie outbreak. However, he does save a small sample of the fertilizer. When the twins arrive, he grabs a suitcase containing numerous spheres. Each of these spheres contains a cure for the infection and can eliminate it within 24 hours. However, as Michael takes one of the spheres, the twins restrain him and forcefully administer the sample fertilizer to him. This renders him unconscious in no time. The twins then drag him away, causing the sphere to slip from his grasp and fall to the ground. In the meantime, the three survivors, Andre, Dan, and Annie, along with Patricia, drive towards the water plant. They decide to leave the little girl in the car to avoid attracting more zombies with her crying. Inside the building, the group discovers a water tank, where Patricia notices a zombie with grass growing on its body. She instinctively rushes towards it, prompting the others to follow. As she reaches the pool, she jumps in to save the other zombie. Dan also quickly plunges into the water to assist her. However, another zombie emerges from the water and attacks him. In a desperate move, Dan pushes Patricia in front of the zombie, causing it to momentarily retreat. This makes Andre realize that the zombies refrain from attacking their own. Soon after, other zombies begin to show up at the scene. As Dan tries to pull Patricia out of the water, her arm gets separated. Meanwhile, Andre runs outside, where he is pursued by more of these monsters. He somehow outmaneuvers them and reaches the car. Seconds later, Dan also arrives using his daughter as a shield and manages to get inside the vehicle. While in the car, Andre hears a sound and discovers Patricia's phone is still in her possession. While trying to unlock it with the broken arm, he makes a surprising discovery. Grass has grown in Patricia's wounds. Dan then recalls the experiments conducted at the golf club and begins to suspect that the infection may not be the work of terrorists, as previously believed. No. Just like every other problem on this planet, it was caused by rich assholes. Elsewhere, the twins begin smashing all the spheres on the golf course to eliminate any evidence of the fertilizer. Meanwhile, the group also arrives at the golf club, and they notice strange smoke emanating from it. Once they enter, Dan secures Patricia in a storage room, while Andre prepares a bed for Annie with the help of chairs. As they explore the building, they encounter the zombie dog, still alive, but covered in grass. Scooby-Doo has become the weed. Suddenly, Dan feels dizzy, as he had consumed some water earlier in the pool. To make matters worse, Annie starts crying at the top of her lungs. Andre rushes to comfort his sister, but finds her missing from her bed. Dan, on the other hand, arrives at a dark corridor where he finds bombs on the ground, with a timer set on one of them. Despite his deteriorating health, he bravely approaches them and manages to deactivate the timer just before it expires. Outside, the twins realize that the building hasn't exploded yet, so they decide to investigate the matter. In the next scene, Andre arrives at a room where he finally finds his sister, but as they proceed to leave, the twins block their path. One twin silences Annie by feeding her the fertilizer, while the other attempts to do the same to Andre. However, before she can do so, Annie turns into a zombie and bites one of the twins. This causes the fertilizer sample to fall on the ground. Just then, Dan, now completely transformed into a zombie himself, arrives at the scene and attacks the twins. As Andre tries to retreat, he accidentally steps on the fallen sphere, which Michelle had left some time ago. This causes the room to fill with smoke, triggering Annie and Dan's gradual recovery from the infection. Meanwhile, the twins realize that they have been bitten and will soon turn into zombies. So, they decide to end their lives by shooting each other, instead of just also inhaling the smoke. In the aftermath, Andre records a video detailing the events thus far and uploads it online. When it reaches the news channels, the government dispatches the army to eradicate the zombies. Soon after, the sound of military choppers is heard in the distance. Soldiers then arrive on the streets and use flamethrowers to eliminate bloodthirsty monsters in their path. Seeking help, Andre emerges from the building and brings over Patricia's broken hand to aid in vaccine development. However, as another survivor approaches the soldiers, they shoot him dead on sight. This makes Andre realize that the soldiers' intent is not to save survivors, but to eradicate everyone in the area. With Annie now recovered, he flees the scene and hides away around the bush. Inside the golf club, Dan and Patricia have also recovered, but their respite is short-lived as soldiers enter the building and burn them alive. In the following scene, the defense minister reassures the public on TV that the situation's under control and the infection has been eliminated. Back on the island, Andre wanders the streets, hoping to find someone who can help him, but all he comes across is the deceased bodies of survivors who were burned earlier. Andre then reaches near the bridge where he spots some boats approaching him. Surprisingly, one of them belongs to Nanny, who has come to rescue them. Once they depart from the island, Andre realizes that Patricia's broken hand is no longer of use, so he discards it into the water, which is very stupid indeed. A fish slowly approaches the hand, bites it, and expectedly turns into a zombie. This chilling moment marks the end of the movie.